Welcome to my Moto channel. Today's video is going to be all about how you clean and maintain your crash helmet. Whether you're wearing it all year round or storing it through the winter, this is what you need to do. So, before we carry on with the video, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment, and let's get started on cleaning this filthy helmet. So last week's vlog, I rode over to Chesterfield wearing this in -1 degrees. So we've got dirt, we've got road grime, we've got salt all over this helmet. So what we're going to do is I'm going to clean the helmet, I'm going to clean the visor, and I'm going to clean the internal liner. Now, anyone who's wearing a helmet like this, just because the internal liner says it's antibacterial does not mean that it doesn't have bacteria in it. And it's very important to strip that liner out every once in a while and give it a good clean. But we're going to do that with the whole helmet. We're going to strip it apart. So first of all, if you've got any intercom systems, make sure you take them off the helmet. Especially if you're leaving your helmet in the garage or something like that with your bike. It's not the ideal place to leave it, in a cold, damp place. Ideally leave them somewhere where it's at least room temperature and dry, but definitely do not leave your intercom units out in the cold, because the batteries on these will suffer because of it. So make sure you take these off, get them charged up, and keep them in the house. So that's the first thing to remove. Next thing I'm going to do is take off the visor. So you can see here the amount of filth on this visor. We have done a video specifically on how to clean a visor. So I won't go into this in too much depth. I'll put a link above at the moment so you can have a look at that if you're only here to see how to clean the visors, where this is going to be a full tutorial on how to do everything to your crash helmet. So I've removed the two visor mechanisms, the screws that are holding the visor in place. I'll pop that off, and there you go, you got our visor there. Visor's off. We're going to give that a good clean. We're going to give the helmet a clean. So the next thing I'm going to do is strip out the internal lining. Flip the helmet upside down. Ideally, if you've got a donut, these things are very handy for this kind of stuff. Undo the press studs, and then just pull those cheek pads and the base out. Now, although the manufacturers, a lot of them will say that the linings are antibacterial, it's the fabric covering it that is antibacterial. The foam behind it isn't. And if you get that full of sweat on a hot day, that sweat's in the foam behind the material and has bacteria in it. The other thing as well is, where this is exposed at the front, if you're riding with your visor up, this gets the same amount of road grime on it as what your visor would get. And you can see how filthy that is. So these definitely need a wash. I've worn this helmet now for about 1.5 to 2 years for all of my Moto videos, and these definitely need a good wash and clean. So cheek pads and neck curtains out, and there's the skull cap. And what we're going to do first of all is get these soaking. So I can move that helmet to one side for a moment, and what I've got here is a bowl of warm water. It's not boiling hot, it's not cold, it's just warm. What we're going to do to clean these linings, we're going to leave them to soak first. And what I'm going to use in the water is a little bit of a baby shampoo. So these are extremely mild, they don't have any kind of fragrance in it, and it won't cause any kind of damage to your actual foam linings. Before I add the baby shampoo into the water, I'm going to get the visor and get that soaking, the same as what I did in the previous visor video. So just get a little bit of that on there, get that wet, it starts to stick in place. So the reason for soaking these visors, there can be little bits of hard debris. There's little bits of salt obviously from the road, there can be flies on it. This is going to soften them, allow them to wipe away without scratching the visor. So I'm going to leave that to soak, and while that's soaking I'm going to add our baby shampoo into the warm water. So you're not going to need a lot of this, just a little bit. Give that a little bit of a stir, just get it mixed into the water, and then we're going to take these and drop them into the water as well. And like I say, I'm going to leave these to soak for a while. Just let that mild detergent get into all the grime and the dirt and the sweat and help lift it away. Whilst we've got the interior lining soaking there, I'm then going to come back to this, and we're going to use the Motul helmet and visor cleaner, which is a really good cleaner for cleaning the outside of your helmet. So if you just Put plenty of that all over the shell. So get a good coating on there. Get a cloth and just give it all a good wipe down. You're trying to get right up to the seal, get round the mechanisms and things like that. Because you'll find as well that the rubber seals, if they get any grit on them, they can scratch the edges of your visor and also affect the visor seal itself. So it's worth just making sure all those seals and rubbers are clean. There we go. So that's the outer of the helmet cleaned. What we're then going to do, so get a towel for us to rest the linings on. These have been left to soak, but what we're going to do before we take them out is just manipulate them a bit. So you're squeezing the foam inside the pads, and that's just going to pick up any of that old sweat and dirt and drive it out of the material. Don't wring them. That's critical. Don't wring the pads to try and get any of the moisture out. You're just squeezing them gently. As we lift them out, give them a squeeze like that and lay them on a towel for a moment. Same with the skull cap. Give that a squeeze all the way around. Make sure we get all that sweat and grime out of it. Then again, lift it out, give it another squeeze and rest that on the towel as well. What we're now going to do is switch that water out for some fresh, warm water with no detergent in and give them another quick rinse before we then take them out and dry them. Just look at the state of that water though. It's picked up all that grime and dirt. So definitely better to get them linings out, get them rinsed and washed. So now I've got a bowl of fresh warm water again. So again, it's warm, it's not too hot, not too cold. Nothing in it this time, just plain water. And we're going to give them another rinse, and that's to get rid of any of the spare detergent from the first wash. We want to get rid of any of that. So again, drop it into water. You don't have to soak it this time. Just drop it in, give it another squeeze through. And you'll see whether you've squeezed it because you'll see the air bubbles coming out of the foam as you squeeze it. And that's just making sure that that water is getting right into the pad. Lift it out, give it another squeeze. Same with the cheek pads, back in. And then lift them out and again squeeze the excess out. Like I said before, do not wring them. Do not twist them and scrunch them up to dry them. And don't put them in a tumble dryer. You don't want to put them on anything hot either, so don't put them on radiators or heat them in any way. Just let them dry naturally. The water will drip out of them. It's open cell foam a lot of the time in helmet linings, so the water will drain quite quickly down to the bottom, and then as they're drying you can just keep giving them a little squeeze to try and get any excess out. But other than that, don't force dry them, just let them dry naturally. So that's it, finished with the water. I'm going to leave them to dry. And we're going to get on to finishing cleaning the visor. So now the visor's been sat for a while soaking, what I can do now is just wipe that tissue away, and it'll pick up a lot of that dirt and grime with it. So you can see there, look how dirty that bit of tissue is. What I'm then going to do once I've done that, get a bit of dry, fresh tissue, give it another gentle wipe. Again, you can see that it's still lifting a little bit of dirt off there. Then I'm going to get a soft cotton cloth. I'm going to get my visor cleaner, so my Moto visor cleaner, give it a quick spray and a wipe, and that'll just get rid of the greasy kind of marks that the water won't lift. Now if you've got a pin lock in your visor, which you'll see I've got here, you can again use a bit of just a soft cotton cloth to give it a wipe. Normally that just wipes clean. If you have to use anything, just a tiny bit of water and just dry it off. But just a gentle wipe like that does the trick. So now the visor's clean, the helmet's clean, I'm going to put that back on. I'm going to leave the cheek pads and the head cap liner to dry naturally like I said, but we can get this back together. Now before we put the visor on, if you have any kind of moving parts, sometimes these need lubricating. Especially with things like some of the Arai, they're quite a complex system and you need to keep them lubricated for them to work properly. Now Arai actually supply you with a silicone lubricant. You need to use silicone because you're using them on plastic parts. You can't use normal oil, you can't use grease, it's got to be a silicone lubricant. So dead easy to find and quite cheap to buy. and good for just keeping on top of these mechanisms and keeping them working properly. With the AX9, there's not really much to these. There's not a lot of kind of mechanism. It rotates slightly on the center, and then there's a ratchet system there. So there's not really much of a need for this. But what I'll do is just put a little bit of silicone on the ratchet part, and that will just help that visor lift and drop as it should. Tiny drop is all it takes. There's only a small contact area between the visor and the mechanism. Something I'm not going to lubricate though, with the AX9 it has a single screw that holds the visor in at the side. This has a little bit of thread lock on it, and that's because with it being a single screw, if it didn't hold in tight it would undo. We don't want to lubricate where that screw is going in because we don't want this to come loose. You can actually replace that thread lock and put a tiny bit of Loctite on it, tiny bit. But generally speaking, they don't come loose anyway. You've just got to make sure you don't lubricate it. So I'm going to drop the visor on, line it up on either side, then get the screw, put the plate through, a couple of turns of the screw, just hold that in place, spin it round and do the same on this side. Drop that in, a couple of turns, and then tighten it up properly. Once you've tightened the visor down, you need to then just shut the visor, make sure it latches correctly, and then lift it and make sure it goes up correctly. Then we know it's working fine. So that's now the helmet done. When those linings are dry, I'm going to put them back in, and then I can either store that helmet until it gets a bit warmer, or I can keep using it and keep on top of that maintenance throughout the year. If you're looking to do a quick clean between uses, then Motul's Helmet Interior Cleaner is a great product. A quick spray and a wipe, and it helps to keep the interior of your helmet sanitized and clean. Hopefully this video has helped you a little bit. If there's anything else you would like to see on how to do something regarding motorcycle kit, then please leave it in the comments and we'll try and make a video on it. This one was actually requested by someone on Instagram and YouTube who's called the biker, formerly known as. Asked if we could do a tutorial on how to clean the internal lining, so that's why we've covered it. So again, if there's anything you want to see, leave it in the comments, we'll try and cover it. If you want to support the channel in any way, then all we ask is next time you're looking for some motorcycle kit, come to one of our 3 shops or our website. So we've got a shop in Manchester, a shop in Leeds, or a shop in Derbyshire in Claycross. Or go to our website, which is mymotoclothing.co.uk or dstoremanchester.co.uk. Thank you for watching. Until next time, ride safe.